Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today, what I want to talk about is the National Matching Service and how you actually get into a genetic counseling program based on that matching process. So when I've been explaining genetic counseling applications and admissions to people lately as I'm gearing up to apply to that, I've realized that a lot of people are not familiar with this matching program that the genetic counseling process utilizes for admissions. And so it is kind of unique, but for that reason, I've touched on it before in a previous video, but I do want to go a little bit more in depth and kind of explain how that works. So I'm going to show you on my computer here kind of what's going on. So first thing, just looking up the National Matching Service, NMS, go ahead and click on that. It will bring you here. And so you can see there's a couple different programs which utilize this. A lot of them are in the STEM field, in the healthcare field. So you can see dentistry, optometry, pharmacy, medicine. As far as I'm aware, I think a lot of times for the regular applications for like a dental school or medical school, they utilize a more traditional application system, like with a undergrad degree. But this matching would be for some of their residency programs, as far as I understand it. So if we go ahead and click on genetic counseling, we will get to this page right here. You can see the GC admissions match. And if we go to the GC match website, and then it's gonna take us to this page. So one thing is I just wanted to get a video out about this, but I've been looking into this all summer as I'm gearing up to apply, and the list of programs participating in the match, which are the programs you're basically eligible to apply to, is not coming out till September 8th. So it's August 29th today. Still got a couple days until that's up, but you can tell most of the established and accredited universities are already, expected to be in this match again. So it's not really going to be any surprises there, but there might be one or two new ones that you might be seeing on September 8th. So you can't actually register for this until September 8th. I can walk through a registration video. I've been planning to do that, but again, got about a week or so until that happens. So check back in for that. But right now, I want to go over a couple things as to how this works and some of the dates, because the dates have been out since about July, and this has been kind of a nice way to gauge how the application process is going to go. So for example, if you look at the schedule of dates, here we have September 8th. And so this is the date that you can start to register for the match. Now, registering for the match is going to give you a match ID number, basically like an applicant registration number that all the universities and programs you apply to are going to utilize. So basically, this is something you want to put right at the top of your resume or CV when you're applying to a genetic counseling program, because they're going to use that as kind of your identification number, and if you don't have that, you will not be able to match and actually be accepted to a program. So once you register, you will get that number. That would be September 8th, 2021. So December 15th here, this is also a date that's very similar to the actual deadline for applications for different programs. So around the beginning of December, some of them go till early January if I'm not mistaken, but around this time you're going to want to start submitting those applications and finishing them up, because that will be the deadline for a lot of them. Now, March 30th, it says ranking is open. I'll come back to this in a second. April 13th, rank order list deadline, and then April 22nd is match results day. So let me touch on these last couple points here. So the first date we have here is March 30th, so rankings open. The way that this process works is that it's a mutual ranking system. So the schools will rank the applicants, and the applicants will rank the schools. Now, to be eligible to rank a school and vice versa, you have to be invited for an interview for that school. So the way this works is you would first apply. You can apply wherever you'd like. It's going to entail sending letters of recommendation, CV, GRE scores if applicable, several other admissions requirements, which you can find on any website for the genetic counseling program of interest. And then once you apply, you will either receive an invitation for an interview or be notified that you were not invited to get an interview. Once you get an interview, then that is a program you'd be eligible to match with and to rank with your match. So you're going to go to that interview. Those tend to be around the spring. So as far as I understand, around January or February, you'll be notified that you are being accepted for an interview. Once those interviews are done, you are now eligible to rank that school in the NMS match, and that's the next date we have here. So March 30th, the rankings will open. So once the rankings are open and you have your NMS match ID, you're able to go in and rank the different schools that you interviewed with. Now what's going to happen is the schools are going to rank all the students that they interviewed. So once the schools have ranked the students and the students have ranked the schools, this NMS program actually takes care of all the matching, and it will set you up with one school that you're getting accepted to. So this is where it becomes a little different than like in undergraduate college admissions. So whereas for undergrad, I go to Pitt, so I was accepted to University of Pittsburgh. I was also accepted to a couple other colleges, and then I weighed my options and got to choose and commit to the school that I ended up going with. That's not the case with the genetic counseling program based on how the match works. So even if a couple schools rank you pretty high or something like that, you don't get to choose which one you're going to. All the decision and the choice you have here comes into play through the ranking you put down. So it's entirely up to how you rank the schools. And so you'll receive an email on the match day. That's April 22nd, as I showed you. Match results day is when every single student who applied to a genetic counseling program and got interviews and submitted a ranking list will be notified of where they were accepted. So you are only accepted to one program. Like I was saying, this is not like an undergrad where you get accepted to multiple programs and you can choose. Based on the ranking and the way that it works it out, you will get an offer from one and only school. So you really need to be careful when you're ranking that you take everything into consideration of which school you genuinely want to go to in the order you would like to attend them. A couple cool things about this that I've learned over time as I've gone to different webinars and program info sessions and stuff like that. One thing is that the schools cannot see your ranking. So the NMS is like a third-party matching program. So what's nice is that you don't have to factor in the school's perception of where you're ranking them and think maybe they'll be offended if you rank them a little bit lower or something, which would possibly affect your ranking on their end. That's not a concern because the schools cannot see the way that you rank the schools. The next thing is that a lot of schools have different options for the matches you can list. This is a little confusing, but a lot of times these tracks have to do with some form of discrepancy in like a scholarship or the amount of money that it costs. So for instance, I know one program would have the regular non-scholarship track, and then they would have a track with a scholarship or with in-state tuition or something like that. And so another thing I learned is that you don't have to group the different tracks from the same school all together. So for instance, if you had a school you want to go to because it is a really good price or there's some kind of factor that, I'd go here as my first choice if I could get this scholarship, but if I couldn't get that scholarship, I probably would rather go to this other school. You are actually able to indicate that choice in the way that you rank the schools because each scholarship track and different payment track has its own unique ranking code. So what that means is you could say, I'd rather go to this school first choice because I could get a great scholarship there. If I don't get that scholarship, I'd rather go to a different school with a scholarship or without, whatever it might be. And then, this first choice school with the scholarship, if I don't get into this one with the scholarship, I don't get into this one, I would go to the first school without a scholarship or whatever like rank you might have. So that's a really helpful thing too, because you can have all those different contingencies of payment or price or location all expressed in your ranking, and that way you really should end up in the best place that you possibly can. Now, the last thing that I think is important to talk about with, an insight of the matching service that actually is working in your favor and is kind of a confusing aspect of it that you might not realize, is that the matching service actually prioritizes the student's choice. So the way this would work is if I ranked a school and I ranked this school as my number one choice, and another student ranked this school as their third choice. Now the school ranked the other student as a higher choice than me. So the school liked this other student more than they liked me for whatever reason. However, because I ranked this school higher than the other student, even though the school liked that student more, I would actually be prioritized with admission to that program because I ranked it higher and the other student ranked a different school higher, and that school was willing to give them admission based on their ranking. And because that student preferred the other program, they will actually get to go there, and then the program that I was applying to and ranked higher than this other student would be able to offer me admission because I ranked it higher than her, even though the school that is giving me admission liked this other student more. I know that's a little confusing. There's a video on here. There is a video on the NMS website that explains that a little bit better, but hopefully that makes sense. It's just the idea that they will ultimately prioritize the ranking of the students over the ranking of the schools in the way that I just described. So those are the major takeaways, but the biggest thing probably that you might not realize going into this, if you've never experienced a matching program or not looked into it that much, is that you are only admitted to one program. So you really need to be ranking these as accurately and truthfully as possible, because it is also a binding admission. So once you are accepted to that one program, it is assumed and expected that you will go to that program. And if for some reason you need to back out of it or you really can't go there, there's even a disciplinary action and committee that will come into play. So you definitely want to avoid that because it could affect your chances of getting into a program in the future or just your genetic counseling career as a whole. So the way to avoid that would simply be, do not rank any school that you would not genuinely want to go to if you got in. A way that might come into play is, even if you get an interview with that school, you do not have to rank that school. Rather than ranking it as your last school, you can choose to just not rank it at all if you would really not ever see yourself going there, because that's how you could get yourself into trouble, by ranking it just to have it on there, getting in, realizing you really don't want to go, and now you're kind of stuck. So in that case, you would want to just not even rank that school, and that's something that's totally okay to do. That's pretty much it for right now for kind of how the ranking system works and how the matching system works, but I will try to make an update video once I have actually registered myself, maybe going through the registration process. We'll see how that works out on September 8th. We can go through all the schools that are listed as part of the match program and then show the registration process and what that entails. So I hope you learned a lot in this video about the matching program, and stay tuned for the updated one along with some other videos. See you later.